It's very important to study chess openings and understand them in order to become a better chess player. And in this particular video we are going to talk about Open Sicilian. So without further ado, let's dive in. This is the first game I'd like to show you, and in order to play the Open Sicilian we should start with the move e4. Our opponent could reply with the move c5, and if you are a beginner we are going to try or play a lot of sublines. One of them is b4, but in general I don't recommend you to play sublines because it's dangerous and you might lose the game. For example, after c takes b4, already black is a pawn up. The white's idea is to sacrifice a pawn here in order to get development, etc., to develop the bishop easily. For example, after this exchange you can see the bishop is very nice, then white can control the center and have some compensation for the sacrificed pawn. But of course black will not cooperate with you and he can play in the center, and d5 is a very nice move. And after e takes d5 there are not a lot of good options here because the e4 pawn is under attack. And after e takes d5, queen takes d5, and during the game the white player captures here on b4, and after queen e5 you can see that, whoa, this is a disaster because the king and rook are under attack, so black won the game. Let's see another example. Here we have e5, e4, c5, and now another common idea here to play is f4, this move, but this move is not good as well. Please don't play like that, because here we have a powerful weapon with black, and this powerful weapon is d5, Tal's gambit, and the white center will going to destroy it now because you can see we cannot protect everything. For example, if he captures here and we can recapture with the queen, and what this pawn on f4 is doing, you can see we have a lot of open lines here. The line against the king is weak, so it's not good, it's not easy to play with that pawn. We prefer that pawn to be here and after that to castling short side, right? And if you try something else, for example, if you just push the pawn, this is even worse because now you have a lot of weaknesses. Black can control that squares very easily. For example, knight f6, and after that you can play the bishop here. Of course, you can stop this attack, but the knight can jump on f5. After that, he can develop the other knight. If you just pin it, he can develop the rook. He can play something like e6, for example, develop the bishop, and everything is just fine. What are you going to do about this bishop on c1? So it's almost a very nice edge for white here, for black, sorry. Black can play very easily here, and it's easy to lose a game like that. For that reason, the white players, in order to improve their game, and if you become more experienced player, you can try another move. For example, knight c3. This is the close Sicilian because white doesn't want to open the game immediately with the move d4. And after that we can play knight to c6, and for example after f4 black can equalize easily. I can say after g6 we can play something like d6, e5, and this is the Botvinnik system, and it's difficult to do something against it with the white pieces. For that reason, close Sicilian is not very popular in high level. And after that we have bishop to c4. This is the Grand Prix attack. For example, we can play something like e6 and white can play f4. But again, after knight g to e7, black can play easily the move d5, and he can equalize the game because he doesn't face any difficulties, right? A more serious attempt here is the move c3. This is the Alapin variation, and the idea is to play d4 here immediately. After d5 we can capture here, queen takes d5. This is a good line for black, and after d4 black can develop his pieces easily. And after knight to f3 we have knight c6, and now bishop to b5. The game continues. C takes d4. You can see now the bishop on b5 is under attack, so white capture here, queen recaptures, and now he captures with the queen. But usually if you are trying to play Alapin with this move c3 and d4, you can create the isolated pawn. If you like to play with this pawn, then everything will be fine, but if not, then you might have problems with white here. And white just captured with the queen, and now we have bishop to g4, knight b d2, and now black's idea could be something like that. He would like to develop the bishop on d8, but unfortunately the pawn on a6 is hanging, right? For that reason he played during the game queen a6. This is a little strange move, but the idea behind it is to develop the bishop on the rook on d8, and similarly doesn't allow white to castling short side. He cannot do that because the queen is controlling f1 square. Now white thought for a while and he played the move knight to e5. It looks logical because the bishop is under attack. He would like to capture the bishop, but black had a nice idea, a nice surprise here. And the surprise is queen to e2, checkmate, finishing the enemy king. So let's move forward. Another system is to try open up the Sicilian immediately, to play knight f3 and d4. This is the best move, and this is what I'm recommending to you, what you should do. And now black has a lot of systems. One of them is e6, and after d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, knight to c6. We have Taimanov Sicilian here. We have Taimanov and Khan. This is very close systems. Do you know the difference, by the way? You're very welcome to post it to post a comment about that. What is the difference about Taimanov and Khan? This is Taimanov, and after knight to c3 we can play something like queen c7, but here you can see we are controlling with black. Black is controlling d5 square, but he's not controlling this very important square on b5, and white can jump there immediately, knight b to d7. You can see the queen is under attack, and queen should protect this d6 pawn. This is a d6 square, because if queen goes away, for example on b6 on d8 or on d8, white can give this check on d6, and he can get the bishop there. For that reason he played queen to b8, and now we have bishop to e3. A normal move for black is a6, try to attack the knight and kick it away, and now we have the surprise move for white. What are you going to do now with white? And white can play this powerful move, bishop to b6, a very cool move, because after a takes b5 we can recapture with a knight, and if you just develop the pieces as the player did in the game, then we have this very cool move, bishop c7, and you can see the queen is trapped right now, right? So let's move forward to see another system. Another system, and a very interesting system with white, is Rossolimo. We have e4, c5, knight to f3, knight c6 for example, and I recommend you to open up the Sicilian immediately, but bishop b5 is another serious attempt to play. And the idea behind that system, this Russian system, is to play the pawn on c3 and after that the other pawn on d4. It's something like Spanish. This is the main idea. And after g6 we can play short castling, bishop to g7, c3 here, and after that d6, d4, and now black can play something like bishop to g4, but here we have d5. The knight is pinned and we're already attacked this knight. And after a6, here is a trick for white. Of course, if he just capture on c6, this is not a good move, because after a takes b5, c takes b7, rook b8, black is just fine. He has a very nice pawn structure, and he is going to capture that pawn on b7 for sure, right? For that reason, white played this move bishop to a4, and now we have b5. What there is to do? The knight is under attack, so b5 is the move. D takes c6, b takes a4, and queen takes a4. This is a better version for white, and now black played an interesting move. He played knight to c6. What are you going to do now with white? Please don't fall in temptation to play c7 immediately, because after queen d7 black is totally fine. This pawn cannot go anywhere, your queen is under attack, and for example after the exchanges he can even recapture with a king, and this pawn on c7 is doomed. He can capture back the pawn and everything is okay for black. For that reason white thought here and found another very nice idea. He played the very powerful move e5. This is very strong move, because if he just recaptured here with a pawn, it didn't happen in the game. White can recapture with a knight, and the bishop is under attack now. Queen and knight are attacking the bishop, but more specifically, we are controlling this d7 square, and we are threatening. White is threatening to play c7 and give a check and win the queen. For that reason, black after e5, this strong move, black capture on f3, and now white capture the bishop. The knight on c6, and you can see now that both bishops are under attack. So black recapture here, e takes f6, and white can capture a piece here on f3, but he had the better move, and the better move was c7. Black again can put the queen in between on d7, but you can see after rook e1 the king is under attack, so you have to move away, then we can capture the queen and white is winning. So bishop b5, this is a very interesting option with white. If you don't like to learn a lot of theory, this is definitely a good option. Now we have another system, c4, e4, c5, knight to f3, knight c6, bishop b5, again the Rossolimo, and now g6, bishop takes. Here we have another idea. One idea is to play c3 and d4, and another idea is to capture immediately on c6. D takes c6, d3, bishop to g7, h3, important move in order to stop any pin here. After that, black developed the knight, knight to f6, knight c3, short castling, bishop e3. The pawn on c5 is under attack, and white's idea is very clear. He can play like that, castling short, castling long or short, doesn't matter so much. So queen a5, try to protect the pawn and pin the knight, and we have queen d2. He is unpinning his own knight. Now rook d8. Here black is dreaming to do something. For example, he would like to play something like c5, because this pawn is pinned, he might capture here. This is black's ideas. And white played this move, bishop to h6, bishop h8, short castling, and now black performed a nice maneuver. This knight on c6 is not very good located, and black's idea is to regroup this knight on f8, e6, and after that to put on d4, create a strong outpost here on d4. For that reason, black played knight d7, and similarly he would like to maybe to destroy white's pawn structure here on c3. But we have a very strong move with white here. What are you going to do? And white played this amazing move, knight to d5. Of course, black cannot capture the knight because the queen is unprotected. He's going to lose his queen. And after, for example, he can try to exchange queens, but white's idea is not to exchange queens. He would like to perform a nice checkmate. You can see knight and bishop perform this beautiful checkmate. So let's move forward to see another one. Now we have Grivas Sicilian, e4, c5, knight to f3, knight c6, d4. Try to open up the Sicilian. This is a very good weapon. C takes d4, knight takes d4, and here we have Grivas Sicilian. From Greek Grandmaster Grivas, he named this system. He played it a lot with success. For that reason, it has his own name. The idea behind that move is to kick away the knight from the center immediately. He is trying to attack the knight and kick it away. And now we have knight to b3, d6, bishop e3, attack the queen. This is one of the problems because you drive back the knight, but black have problems with the queen. B6 square is not the perfect square for the queen in Sicilian. And after queen c7, this is the best square for the queen, we have knight to c3. And you can see now that black has two problems. One problem is the d5 square, and another one is the b5 square. And unfortunately, black cannot protect both of that squares. For example, we have a6 during the game, knight d5, queen d8, and look at that. He played bishop d6, and the poor queen should move again. And after queen d7, we have knight c7, and the problems didn't end here, because after king d8 we can capture the rook, and this is another check, because we are attacking the king here, and we can escape with a knight again. We can play something like that, and white has a totally winning position. Let's move forward. We have another game. And this line again played in Grivas Sicilian, a knight to b3, a nice move. We have knight f6, knight c3, and this time black tried to protect the other square, the square on d5. We have bishop d3, try to develop the pieces, bishop b4, and black would like to be totally sure that white will not move that knight on c3. So we have short castling. Now white is threatening a lot of things because he can play something like bishop e3, and after that start jumping with the knight forward. So black captured the knight immediately, and he thought that everything is just fine. But in Sicilian, even with that double pawns here on the queen side, or destroying pawn structure, you have a good play, because after, for example, d5, white player capture here, he takes d5, knight takes d5, and bishop a3. You can see now that black cannot castling short side, because the f8 square is protected. He played knight c e7, and after that white continued with c4. Black played an aggressive move, knight b4, the knight is in the center of the board, and now came the surprise. White's turn. What are you going to do? And of course he played c5, tried to kick away this defender, and queen should protect the knight, but there is no good square for the queen in order to protect the knight. For that reason, black here resigned. He resigned the game. So let's move forward. We have another system, Kalashnikov, and Kalashnikov is after that moves, we have e5 immediately, knight to b5 and d6. The idea behind that system is to avoid the pin here on g5. And after bishop to c4, we have knight c6, bishop g5. Okay, now a6, and white played very nicely here. He played a very nice move. Of course, black can do it in another way. He should not develop the knight immediately. He might kick away the knight with a6, something like that, or play bishop e7 first. He has other ideas. But after knight to c6, you can see how dangerous is this pin, because after a6, it's white's turn. He captures here, bishop takes f6, g takes f6, and now the knight is under attack, but white played a very strong move, queen h5, like scholars checkmate, right? He would like to checkmate on f7. And now things are difficult for black. He played queen d7, what else to do? He is trying to protect that pawn on f7, and white continues his cool strategy. He has many good options here. One of them, one very funny variation, is bishop e6, because it's a shocking move. First of all, the knight, the pawn cannot capture, and if queen captures here on e6, then we have the family fork, because the king, the queen, and rook are under attack, right? For that reason, he cannot capture the bishop. And but he didn't play that during the game. It is very interesting. He just captured on f7, queen takes f7, and now white played this move, this very strong move, knight c7. The queen is pinned, cannot capture the knight, so we have king to e7. Now he continued with that check. King should protect the queen. He went back, and now we have another check here on f6. So white captured a pawn. King e7, another check, king e6 that time, and now white is winning. He played that move, queen g4 check, and after queen f5, he just captured the queen there, and this is a checkmate. So let's move forward to see another game, Richter browser. This time we have e4, c5, knight f3, d6. Okay, we can transpose with different move orders, but it doesn't matter so much. Now we have d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, knight c6. Again, you can see black can play this move earlier or a little later. It doesn't change the situation so much. We have knight c3, knight f6, and bishop to g5. This is Richter browser, and black can play here e5. But playing that move, you are leaving a lot of squares unprotected. For example, b5 and d5. These are key squares in Sicilian. And now white captures immediately on f6, queen takes f6, and look at that, knight d5. The queen is under attack, and the knight would like to jump here on c7. Queen d8, and now knight to b5. And black has a lot of problems. Now he played rook to b8, and after knight b to c7, white resigned here, because after king d7 we can see a similar checkmate, queen g4 check, f5, and again a similar checkmate as in the previous game. Another variation is the Sveshnikov, e4, c5, knight f3, knight c6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, knight f6 this time. Okay, we can transpose with different move orders, but it doesn't matter so much. Knight to c3, and in Sveshnikov, black played immediately the move e5. So the pawn is on d6 again. We have knight b d7, d6, and here we have this move again, bishop to g5. a6, try to attack that knight immediately on b5, knight a3, and b5. Black's threat is obvious. You would like to play this move, this pawn on b4. So we have bishop takes f6, g takes f6 this time, because you don't like to lose tempo. Queen doesn't want to lose tempo. And we have knight to d5. And here we have a very famous trap. It happened in many games. Black played this move, knight e7. What are you going to do now with white? And the move is knight takes f6, a checkmate in 11 moves, right? A very cool checkmate. Let's see another game. We have the same opening moves, the Sveshnikov again. Here d6, bishop g5, a6. He went back, b5, you know all these moves already. So we have bishop takes f6, g takes f6, and knight to d5. f5 this time, it's a better move. In previous move he played knight e7 and became a checkmate. f5 is a normal move, and now it's white's turn, and white can perform a very, very strong attack. And the attack is bishop takes b5, a very strong move, because after a takes b5, as we seen earlier, white can put the knight here on b5, and he's threatening now to give a deadly check here on c7. For that reason, here black, after bishop takes b5, had a smart idea to give a check on a5, try to attack the king, and for example after something like c3, he can just capture here, and the knight cannot recapture because the queen is protecting that square. But white have something in mind after queen a5, a very cool tactic. You should remember that tactic. He played the powerful move b4, a very strong move. The queen is under attack, the knight on c7, c6 is under attack, so here black doesn't have a lot of things to do. He cannot capture the knight, because after that white can capture on c6, attacking the king and rook in the corner. If he went back, then again we can do that, and bishop d7 for example, we can capture here, queen can recapture, and now we have another double attack. Very typical double attacks in Sicilian. The king and queen are under attack, so white is winning. Let's continue, move forward. We have a 7-Indian system here. And what is the 7-Indian system? Knight f6, the pawn on e4 is under attack, knight c3, an exchange here, a6. You can see that this is the most serious system, because everything is protected, the queen is in its place, everything is very fine here. And after bishop to g5, black would like to control everything, and he can play the move e6, try to control everything in the center, right? Now we cannot do a lot of tricks. And white can play here f4. Why black can try to hand some pawns, for example b2 pawn is under attack, and white can sacrifice that pawn. This is a poison pawn variation, queen d2, and after queen takes d2 we can play the rook on b1, and now queen a3, and you can see it's a little dangerous for black to do that, because after e5 we're trying to open up lines and create an attack. For example, knight f d7, rook b3, the queen is under attack again, queen a5, and now we can capture on d6. Bishop takes d6, and now it's white's final move. He played the move and black resigned here, because white captured here on e6. And black has a lot of problems. If he just capture, we can capture with the queen. We are threatening checkmate on e7 here. And for example, after queen to c5, we can capture the e6. King can go on f8. You can see that black's coordination is completely destroyed, and now we can play something like bishop to c4, and you can see white is threatening checkmate on f7, and black has serious problems here. So bishop f8 is another try maybe, but after queen e3 you can see white is threatening a lot of discovered checks here. He can give a check on c7, the queen is a powerful piece here, and for example after this exchange he can interfere the move on e7, but after that we can perform a checkmate, right? So he cannot do a lot of things. Another system is the dragon. Of course we cannot leave the dragon outside, and the dragon is after this first move, so black can play this move g6, bishop to e3, bishop g7, f3, knight to c6. White's structure is very solid here, and the idea is to put the queen on d2, after that castling long, and start the attack against the enemy king side. So after queen to d2, short castling, bishop c4, another important move, try to stop d5 once and forever, and after a6, long castling, queen c7. The bishop here is not very well protected because the queen is eyeballing that bishop, so we have bishop to b3, b5, and already black fell into the trap because white have something powerful here. And this powerful idea is knight takes c6, a very good idea, because after queen c6 we have knight d5, and now black can realize the real problem, because let's see, if he just capture on d5, then we can recapture with the bishop, and you can see that this is a skewering. We are trying to capture the rook in the corner, right? So this is the first problem. The second problem is that this pawn here on e7 is under attack, and for example after queen b7 try to protect that pawn, we can play the move knight takes c6, bishop takes c6 for example, And again, bishop to d5. This is another skewering. The rook is under attack, and white will going to win material here. And we have the Najdorf. Last but not least, the Najdorf is very important. e4, c5, knight f3, d6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, knight f6, knight c3, a6. And this is the correct move orders. And now bishop to g5. Knight b to d7. Black try to protect everything. Bishop c4, a6. And you can see that in Sicilian you can destroy the opponent very, very easily. You can capture here on f6, and after, for example, g takes f6. This is Black's idea, because after that Sicilian is a very aggressive opening, and Black would like to put the rook on g file here to try to attack the enemy king side. He would like to create this powerful outpost with a knight in the center. This is Black's idea. But white can destroy Black's position right now, and he can play bishop takes f7, king takes f7, queen h5 check, and after knight e6 the queen is under attack. The queen should go somewhere, for example on b6, and after that we can give a powerful check on g6, bishop g7, and a checkmate on g7. And here is my final question to you. If you play with Black from time to time, of course you can try Sicilian, because it is a very sound opening. And my question is, what are you going to use against the Sicilian? What system are you going to play? For example, Rossolimo, Taimanov, Kalashnikov, Sveshnikov, Dragon, Najdorf. You have a lot of options. Please write below in the comments your preference. Thank you very much, and see you soon.